critical thinking site that assists you with working on your psychological capacities. There's a mental quality that all effective individuals seem to share for all intents and purpose. It's been co-endorsed by Charged Doors, and NASA involves it as a standards for choosing potential frameworks engineers. This idea is known as the development mentality, a term initially authored via Carol Dweck. Individuals with the development attitude accept that insight or ability in any field can be created through exertion. Fundamentally, they accept that anybody can support their capacities in anything. The backwards of the development mentality is the decent attitude. Individuals with this one accepted that insight and expertise are inborn. Something we're brought into the world with. We're either conceived gifted or not. There's no space for change. Fundamentally, they accept knowledge is fixed from birth. In this video, we'll investigate why the development outlook is the better one, and how we can foster it. So we discussed what the development attitude is. The conviction that knowledge and expertise in any field can be grown, but at the same time we should discuss what it's not. It's not enchantment. It won't assist you with getting all that you deeply desire, and it won't make you the following Elon, Sum and Steve occupations. Nonetheless, it is an exceptionally strong focal point with which to see the world, and it can work on the likelihood of your prosperity. We all are a combination of both the development and fixed mentalities. In certain aspects of our lives, we work with the development attitude, in others we work with the proper outlook. Along these lines, I believe you should consider the two outlooks like a couple of glasses. Certain individuals wear the development glasses on a more regular basis, and others wear the decent glasses more. However, we as a whole were both in various circumstances in our lives. Despite the fact that we ought to all endeavor to wear the development ones substantially more than we were the proper ones. However, why? Indeed, a great deal of examination strongly implies that individuals with the development attitude are more effective than individuals with the decent outlook. For instance, an investigation discovered that understudies who held a development outlook were multiple times bound to score in the top 20% on the test, while understudies with a proper attitude were multiple times bound to score in the base 20%. One more investigation discovered that when 7th graders partook in a development attitude program, they had the option to keep away from a drop in grades, which normally happens in center school. Individuals with the development outlook are substantially more tough, which permits them to defeat testing and tough spots since they focus on learning over disappointment. They're unafraid to face challenges. They focus on developing over stagnation. Then again, individuals with the decent outlook would rather not challenge themselves since they accept ability and insight are fixed. They view disappointment as an attack on their identity personally. To them, lack of information is a mark of idiocy and disappointment. When implies disappointment, generally an individual with the development outlook trusts that they're generally in a condition of motion and change, so they don't join their personality to their outcomes. All things being equal, they center around the method involved with developing and learning. Barely any individuals will reject that the development mentality appears to plan pleasantly onto the real world. We realize that the cerebrum can keep on learning until the day we kicked the bucket. On account of the area of neuroscience. It likewise appears to be very natural that individuals should try sincerely and drive forward regardless of obstructions, to turn out to find success. So the development attitude is by all accounts a significantly more precise perspective on reality than the proper outlook. Individuals with the development mentality are living as per reality than individuals with the decent outlook. They can pursue more genuine choices, while the individual with the proper mentality lives in a more prominent condition of hallucination. What do I mean by this? Envision two business visionaries. One has the development mentality and one has the decent outlook. They're both in the beginning phases of their enterprising excursion. Out of nowhere, the two of them experience a barrier and are compelled to settle on a choice. The one with the decent attitude sees the long and strenuous excursion in front of her due to the road obstruction. The excursion impeding issues to her, the outcome she accepts that business ought to come simple to the people who are bound for it. She chooses to stop. The one with the development outlook sees the long and challenging excursion in front of her and grins. The excursion is the best way for her. Matters the excursion. Playing the job of an understudy. She acknowledges the long and difficult way as their educator. She will permit it to shape her into the individual she wants to become to accomplish the outcomes she wants. She chooses to continue. At the point when we take a gander at both of these models, the vast majority of us would concur that the business visionary with the development attitude has a more prominent comprehension of the real world. Her choice is more genuine. We realize that things require some investment, exertion, and system to accomplish. However, incorporating that mindset is frequently troublesome. So how might we foster the development attitude? The principal key to fostering a development mentality is entirely basic comprehension that it exists, and that it's feasible for the cerebrum to change. Neuroscience possesses shown that our intellect are not fixed. What's more, as a matter of fact, they're truly flexible. We can continuously develop and master new abilities. For instance, an investigation discovered that taxi drivers foster more dim matter in their minds to assist them with exploring all the more really in huge urban communities. They likewise found that how much dim matter in their cerebrums was connected with the quantity of years that they'd been filling in as a cab driver. This recommends that the demonstration of driving a taxi prompted changes in their minds, which permitted them to be more successful at their particular employment. The subsequent key is to zero in on process over results. Dweck has said that we ought to adulate others for their endeavors and their cycle instead of applauding them for the outcomes. For instance, it's smarter to say you read up successfully for that test and your diligent effort truly paid off instead of you're so shrewd you got A. In the previous model, we're zeroing in on and lauding the understudy's interaction, which is something that they have some control over. Ideally, they'll figure out how to connect themselves and their outcomes with that interaction. Notwithstanding, in the last model, we acclaim the understudy for an outcome, which is eventually beyond their control. Tragically, this understudy will probably start to connect themselves with the outcome. I believe it's truly critical to accentuate that passing a development attitude onto others is difficult. Not so straightforward as telling somebody they're a diligent employee and that they simply have to invest the energy. They need to assimilate that they can change the outcomes by changing the interaction. So they need to know how to successfully make a cycle substitute and produce results from that interaction. My answer for this is to keep a diary. Pick a movement that you need to improve at. For instance, suppose that I need to significantly improve at math. In the diary, I'll record my interaction for concentrating on math. I would drill down the means and put a quantifiable estimation to however many things as I can. For instance, my interaction could seem to be this: audit my notes 1 time per day, do 10 practice issues a day, and meet with my teacher for 30 minutes every week. I trust this strategy for keeping a diary. Making a cycle and refining it until the ideal result is accomplished will assist with advancing the development attitude. It keeps our psyche zeroed in on a variable interaction. The outcomes are estimated and focused on just as a sign of how well our interaction functions. The interaction either functions as expected or it doesn't, yet it doesn't express anything of the individual. The cycle is pliable 100% of the time. It isn't so much that it doesn't work. It simply doesn't as yet work. I think another smart thought is to look for counsel from friends and instructors. Search for those similarly situated as you, or the individuals who have previously done what you're attempting to do. Get some information about their interaction and perceive how yours actions up. You could find things that they do or have done that you might want to take on into your cycle. Peruse books about individuals you appreciate. Attempt to find insights regarding their cycle that you can integrate into your own. Ultimately, do provoking things to try and get an opportunity of encouraging the development attitude. You need to venture beyond your usual range of familiarity. Individuals who don't leave their usual range of familiarity start to accept that their prosperity is because of natural ability, since everything comes so natural to them. For instance, an understudy who is never tested in school will start to accept that they're intrinsically brilliant. I get A's there from savvy. They could say the outcome comes so natural to them that they don't even for 1 second consider the cycle. Sadly, all they see is the outcome and they get connected to that when they definitely get an awful grade. They'll believe that they're imbecilic. They lose confidence in themselves since they didn't obtain the outcome that they're accustomed to getting with such ease. Then again, going beyond your usual range of familiarity drives you to embrace the development mentality to try not to break under the heaviness of affliction. You need to zero in on and change the interaction since you couldn't realistically accomplish the outcome you want with your ongoing interaction by definition. That is stepping beyond your usual range of familiarity. So presently you are familiar the development outlook, why it's significant, and a few thoughts on the most proficient method to foster it. Remember that it requires a ton of work to create, and that will generally be a fight to try not to fall into the decent attitude. Individuals will express specific things, or things will happen that trigger a proper outlook in us. It's critical to see when this is occurring and attempt to try not to sort out setup. I might want to finish off with this statement from Carol Dweck: the way to a development outlook is a long-lasting excursion, not an announcement. If you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumb up and share with your friend. Thank you for watching.